I need to check that. I don't like that. Hey everybody, it's like April 47th. Thanks for checking in again. I mentioned before I have one more thing that I want to do, at least as far as the EFI was concerned, and that's going to be adding timing control.
Computer.
The sniper setup lets you do it, so I might as well take advantage of it if we've got it in the car. So I was waiting on a piece, and that's this adjustable rotor. So we're going to go ahead and follow the steps. There are a couple different versions of the instructions depending on which Holley video you watch or which manual read. I'm going to go with the set of instructions that are in the kit for the sniper setup. At least start there, and then we can refine things. So first thing I got to do is get the motor set to 15 degrees before top dead center, and then we'll pull the distributor and start getting to work on that. There are a bunch of different ways to find top dead center on a motor. This is a thing I found that's really cool. It's called a top dead center whistle. So you remove the number 1 spark plug, you screw this in its place, and as you rotate the crank around on compression, it'll push air out and this will whistle. As soon as the whistle stops, you've reached top dead center. Right about there. So when it stops whistling, and that lines up with my previous mark that I made, checking top dead center in a different fashion. So if you look at my balancer, top dead center where I have it indicated does not line up with 0. Could be the balancer slipped, but I doubt it. Could be an installation issue. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We found top dead center, and then with a little bit of math, we can make a couple other marks we're going to need. So I did a quick little bit of math on my cheat sheet here, and then took a piece of tape and laid it out on a ruler. So I've got my 0 mark, and then I've got a 15 degree, 30, and 45. All we really need to do for this is the 15, but I figured I'd throw the 30 and the 45 to mark on my balancer because in some of the more advanced installations you get into using those numbers. So I figured, well, I'm in there once, might as well do it. So I'm gonna take this piece of tape, put it on the balancer, transfer those marks over, and then we'll get to the next step. Now with everything marked, we've rotated around to what should be 15 degrees, and we can go ahead and pull the distributor. So I'm gonna backtrack slightly. I kind of have assumed that this balancer was off, and I'm not really sure where I got that idea, but I figured since we're getting into timing, the computer's gonna be controlling it.
Hello, computer.
Let's double check all this stuff. And so I went and found my piston stop tool, but my problem is the piston stop tool actually never makes contact with the piston. I had that problem last time. So instead I took my scope and I put it in the number 1 cylinder and I rotated it until I saw the piston reach the top and stop moving. And when I took a look, it was right on the 0 of the balancer. So it turns out my balancer was right the whole time. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the motor to 15 degrees before top dead center, and we can pull the distributor. Now that the distributor's out, we have to lock it out, which means we're going to stop it from being able to mechanically advance the timing since the computer's going to handle all of that. Once it's locked out, then we can go ahead and put the new adjustable rotor on top so that we can phase it all correctly. So one thing I'm going to do here that I've seen other folks do is try to phase this rotor a little bit better. So I have a sacrificial distributor cap here that has some holes drilled in it. I've put a line on the rotor so I can see it better through the top. I'll put this on, and then we'll line up this rotor point with the number 1 on the distributor cap. So if I look at my good cap, I've got this terminal flag for number 1. So there's my screw 1, 2. So we're looking at this. There's a screw 1, 2. We're just going to turn that so it lines up with the 15. I mentioned before that the instructions in the manual differ from other instructions Holley provides. In fact, in the manual, all it does is talk about putting the balancer at 15 degrees, lining things up, you're good to go. If you click the link that's then in that same manual, it takes you to a YouTube video, and the guy in that YouTube video goes and phases, the distributor does all this other stuff. So I just kind of wanted to double check stuff. In the video, the first thing he does when he's putting everything in is he lines up those little metal deals on the distributor that sweep past the pickup. He lines them up to the pickup, and this might be a little hard to see. I'm going to go inverted.
Because I was inverted.
Bullshit. But I just wanted to double check, and I can't tell if you can see or not, but mine line up perfectly by just doing the 15 degree. So maybe he's doing a little bit overkill. I'm not sure exactly what, but if you follow the instructions in the manual from Holley of setting to 15 degrees and then lining things up, I think you should be good to go. But I wanted to verify that before I went any further. Here we are under the dash. Have I mentioned before that I hate wiring? I will clean this all up soon, because yeah, that looks like shit. Everything is wired up and checked according to the manual. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up and see how it runs with timing control. So, confession time. That was absolutely not the first start. It was not the first attempt to start. Quite frankly, this thing kind of kicked my ass. Nothing wrong with the product. The Holley stuff is really straightforward. There are a couple versions of the instructions that are out there that are a little bit confusing. There's a couple discrepancies between some wire color on the MSD box and everything else. But the reality of it is I didn't quite follow directions as closely as I thought. But it's going to be taking that white wire that's running into the firewall and hooking that up, and then we'll be ready to fire this thing up. I got the mechanical part of the timing stuff all set up, but when it came to the wiring, I screwed it up. I hooked up one wire like they were supposed to, and I thought, oh, I'm good to go. And I didn't change any of the other wiring. Well, I fired it up, the car runs, but it's stuck at 15 degrees and doesn't seem to change. I can't seem to figure out why. And then I realized I've got it hooked up wrong. So I tried another way, and I update firmware. And then I change this, and I change another set of wire, and I unplug this.
Okay, so I decided, oh shit, buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper. There's no Pepe Silvia, you gotta be kidding me, I got boxes full of Pepe!
So then I just go ahead and follow the instructions and start over. And what do you know? Rerunning the wizard, car fires right up. So I'm excited. Got it all taken care of, but I'd be a liar if I said I wasn't losing sleep over trying to get this thing running. So the next step, at least for the EFI and the rest of the car, is to do the final prep and get this to the dyno. Because of the cam and the specs on the motor and everything else, the handheld just won't cut it for this car. So we're gonna take it to a pro, we're gonna get it lined out, we'll know what numbers that this thing makes, and we'll get a safe, reliable tune in it. All in all, it's been a really good week for the Camaro. Both Grassroots Motorsports and Hoonigan had videos up that featured it. Well, the Grassroots one did. The Hoonigan one, they mentioned the car. Brian Scotto liked it, so I was pretty psyched about that. I'll put a link down below in the comments for that. So that's going to do for this project. I'm actually really excited about how it turned out. Having EFI on this car has already given me a bunch of ideas, let alone how much better it's going to run on the autocross course, all the other stuff. If you haven't yet, take a moment, check out the Hoonigan link and the Grassroots Motorsports link down below in the comments. Two really cool videos. If you don't already subscribe to either of them, do that now. And while you're at it, hit the like, hit the subscribe on this video, and we'll see you next time.
And I knock on her door and I say, Carol! Carol, I gotta talk to you about Pepe. And when I open the door, what do I find? There's not a single goddamn desk in that office. There is no Carol in HR.